All right, Dean Legge, Matt DeBerry here. We're going to get you riding home. We're going to get you to your house, particularly if you live relatively close to your house. So it's off week, but we did get a chance to talk today to Dan Mullen and Kirby Smart. And Matt, as I said earlier, those were two very different phone calls with the two head coaches of the premier schools in the East. Let me get to you what Kirby Smart had to say today. And it was about JT Daniels, a guy who a lot of people would like to see play at Georgia, but we're getting on into the season now. Here's what Kirby had to say. JT took more reps Tuesday than he has in the past. I thought he did a good job with those reps. I think he would be the first to tell you that there's a little rust there from not having as many 11 on 11 reps or good on good reps. We will see how he responds today and see if there is any soreness and what his pitch count will be and how many reps he can go to be able, and how many reps he will be able to get, I should have said. Your reaction to that, Matt?
Well, again, obviously, it's ideal to have JT Daniels back at 100%. We don't know if he's been 100% since he's been at Georgia. We don't know how long it's going to take for him to get 100%. I know we talked right before this. He could be able to play against Florida and beyond. Again, he's getting closer and closer. He's throwing a little bit more and more. But at this stage, the way Stetson Bennett's been playing, I think Georgia fans would rather see a healthy George Pickens against Florida than a healthy JT Daniels. I think if you get some of these wide receivers back and healthy, that's going to make it even easier for Stetson Bennett to continue to play well and lead this team. And he could lead this team right now to wins over Florida and Tennessee and go undefeated in the regular season. But I think he could beat Alabama and maybe another elite defense or two if he has George Pickens back, Don Blaylock, Jermaine Burton 100%. We've just seen a little bit of him, it seems like. Arian Smith, the guy who can make an immediate impact. They're so banged up that I don't think anymore that they need JT Daniels to win the national championship. They just need a healthy receiving core, running backs, the offensive line to play better, and for Stetson to do his thing. But like you said, it would be nice to have JT Daniels back 100%. Not sure when that's going to be just yet, though.
So when you and someone texted me about this during the week, and they were like, why are you? This is not the way they put it, but like they were like, well, why are you wanting to get Stetson out of there? I mean, I don't know that I'm saying that. I'm saying you want all your guys healthy, and when your best people are healthy, whoever the best player is can go. Um, Stetson Bennett's improvement. I hope it's not just me that can notice these things. I mean, he has played better, period. I mean, go back to the Kentucky game of last year. That was after the Alabama game, but before the Florida game. And Stetson did not play well against Kentucky. I don't think they won the game 14-3. You look at this game, this season. I would ask you, beyond this, the interception against South Carolina, when has Stetson not played well? That's one question. Then secondly, and these are not questions for you, Matt, but and then secondly, you know, what game can you not win with Stetson as your quarterback? I'm not sure that there's one that you're precluded from winning because he's your guy. This is about putting the absolute best possibility to win on the field. My opinion is that that's still JT Daniels. But that's a healthy JT Daniels. That's a JT Daniels that is playing. That is also, I would like to add, not a knock on Stetson Bennett. I mean, no, that's not a knock on Stetson Bennett at all. Do they win these other games? Do they win these other games with Carson or Brock or I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I know the answer with Stetson is they want him. They want him comfortably. And there's something to be said for the time he's been around the program. Stetson certainly does not this season appear to be getting flustered. And would this thing be different if he didn't get injured against the Gators a season ago? I don't know. I mean, there's a reason they went to JT a season ago.
Right. And I think something that we talk about all the time, especially you, is playing quarterback and not just being an athlete back there. And I think we've seen a big progression there.
Yes.
Last year, he made a lot of dumb mistakes, especially
Yes.
against Alabama. This year, when it doesn't look good, it's because he just missed a throw. It's not because he made a bad decision. He just didn't hit his guy. Either he threw it a little behind him, a little head, or whatever. But he's making the right decisions, and he's not getting sacked a lot. He's using his feet when he needs to.
That's the
This
one
lead
thing.
option has
Now,
been
see,
more there.
the
Yeah.
the comment section can kind of get get jumpy right now that I cut you off, but the one thing you're missing when you don't get JT, when you have Stetson in there, excuse me, when you replace JT with Stetson, you lose that 20-yard run once a half. Hey man, that matters.
Especially against defenses who don't exactly scheme for it. I mean, if you have to scheme for that, if for Stetson Bennett to run the ball, then everything changes. That makes everything difficult for that particular defense. And that's why when he does tuck in and pull it, he's getting yards. He's getting a first down. It's not like he's scrambling for 2 or 3 yards.
He's as
It's
good a
a big
running
play.
quarterback as Georgia's had since Matthew, and they chose not to run Aaron after a while. But I mean, he's as good a runner with the football as they've had. I mean, he's not Shock. He's not Quincy Carter. He's probably not even Matthew. I don't know. The Matthew comparison running the ball is not so far because Matthew was a pretty effective runner. But that's a dangerous thing that you don't get with JT. See?
And I think if you're Brock and Gunner, you're looking at how Stetson's running this offense, and you're thinking, man, I can't wait to try to get a real opportunity
Yeah.
at this job because he's making it look easy at times too. And a lot of that is Todd Monken making it easier for Stetson Bennett. Could you imagine what he could do with a healthy Brock in year 3 or a healthy Gunner in year 3? You know, these 5-star guys who maybe are more talented and have a better arm than Stetson, who is throwing the ball really well right now. So,
well, the difference between Stetson, I would say, and what I've seen with Brock Vandagriff is in the time they've been at Georgia, either warming up or performing or whatever, in this case, Stetson's playing. Stetson's been more accurate than Brock has been warming up, but that's a very narrow slice of the pie. So we're going to have to see what happens with Brock Vandagriff. All that said, I still would rather see JT in there. I need to see JT play. There was a certain punch that Georgia had with JT that they did not have with Stetson. The other criticism, if you want to call it that, JT's dug in there and won some tight games. I'm trying to remember with Stetson. I don't know that he's won a tight game. The Kentucky game last year, but the Cincinnati game, they had to dig that out. That was a top 10 win. The Clemson game, they had to dig that out. They don't win that game because of JT Daniels, but they don't lose it because of him either. And now, though, you've seen Stetson. Now Stetson has a top 10 win. I don't know, man. We've talked so much this season about it, and it's not what this team is necessarily. That's not how. Do you think the offense is going to be the reason they win the national championship?
not this year, but you look and see what JT Daniels did against Mississippi State and South Carolina last year. That's what Georgia fans want to see, him throwing for 400 yards. That's fun. It's fun football, airing it out, and he's shown the ability to do that. Now, I'm not saying Stetson hasn't won games with his arm, because I think you can say that he obviously won the UAB game with his arm, but he also threw three touchdowns, 250 yards last week. So, yeah, his arm won them that game. But it just looks a little better and a little cleaner when JT is back there, I guess.
JT has better physical tools unless we're talking about running.
Right.
And JT, I think, has been the more comfortable quarterback. Okay? JT's made some mistakes too. They both made mistakes in that Carolina game. But I'm not jumping on the table. I'm not slamming my shoe on the table about this. There are things to be concerned about, and we've just talked about it for almost 8 minutes, or more than that, almost 9 minutes. I don't know, man. I think they both are good quarterbacks in a way that you'll love this transition. Maybe the Gators don't have right now. I mean, I think if Florida had Stetson Bennett, this would be a different conversation for them. But right now they don't. And Dan Mullen today, man, he definitely was getting the heat from the folks that cover his program. And if people ever want to know, here's some inside baseball now that the Braves are in the midst of their NLCS. You thought I was going to say something else. Georgia and Florida are unlike the other schools in the league because they have a major metropolitan or two cities in their state. You don't get as much fanboy at Georgia as you do at Alabama or Auburn. Same thing with the Gators. There's real legit, coverage of the Gators. It's pretty fierce at times. And you saw that today. I mean, I don't want to say they were coming after Dan Mullen, but there was questions, Matt, about, are you going to say today that you're starting Emory Jones? Are you going to say today that you're going to re-sign Todd Grantham? why does I mean, they were coming after him in a way that you don't see that unless a coach is in trouble. Now, having talked a little bit with, he's not in trouble, Dan Mullen, but they've got some issues down there, and if those quarterbacks don't play better, they're going to get railroaded by Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia got Jim McElwain fired, I guess, 3 years ago, right after that game. I don't see that being a scenario
Yeah.
here, but I do think you could be in the hot seat at the end of the year if they
Yeah.
lose to Georgia, maybe someone else. But Richardson's their guy. I think if you're Dan Mullen, you just have to bite the bullet and say, hey, I did not develop Emory Jones the way everyone expected me to, the way I wanted to. You got to play the more talented kid because he's going to be your guy next year anyway, right? We talked about this with Georgia a little bit, trying to get that young, talented guy some reps. And he's so dynamic and explosive in a way that Emory Jones isn't. And I think the only way they have a shot against Georgia is if this kid comes in, runs wild, has the game of his life. And that's really the only way I can see them keeping up with Georgia. I mean, they got to give it to the young kid and see what you can do with him for an entire game.
Yeah, I mean, I think down there, there's been an understanding that Richardson was likely their better prospect moving forward, but you know, he's prone to a lot of mistakes, and we haven't seen a line for this game yet. But our friend, the degenerate gambler Purple Brave over on Dog Post, which the reason why you go to Dog Post is because it's a community, and we have people who have different um, expertises, if you'd like, or um, passions
That's a
in
good way.
life.
Yeah,
Passions in
that's a good
life.
way to put it.
Yeah. So everybody's not a bettor, although a lot of people are very curious about this stuff, and I am too. And you look at these lines here, Matt. Georgia 15.5 point favorite over the Gators. I think that might be a little low, frankly. Georgia 33 point favorite over Mizzou. It seems like a lot. Georgia 21 point favorite at Tennessee. That's probably close to what I thought. Okay, yeah, you think so?
That kind of seems like a lot right now, but we'll see what Tennessee's really made of against
This
Alabama
Yeah, these
too.
next couple of weeks. Charleston Southern a 49 point dog. Tech a 28 point dog at home to the Dogs. Just very quickly with those, anything?
I could see it more against Tech. I think Georgia's
I
going to
think
try to
so
come out and
too.
really shove their head in the ground.
Okay,
Um,
so here are the other ones that Purple Brave, again, our degenerate friend, and degenerate's a joke, people. Let's not get so sensitive.
right.
13 point favorite over Cincinnati on a neutral field. Comments?
I like that. That's a
Uh,
strong team they
I,
got.
I think that's a touch high myself.
Yeah.
11 over brand new Oklahoma.
Well, I don't know. That could be tight.
Lower.
I think a little bit lower.
Okay. 7.5, so a touchdown and a little bit on Ohio State.
I'd take the Dogs.
And then Georgia, a 1.5 point favorite over Alabama.
I'd take the Dogs.
Okay.
Take the
Do you
Dogs.
think that
Yeah.
line's too low? I think that was going to probably creep up to around 3.
I think I could definitely see that happening. And again, Alabama needs to keep improving too. If they stay the way they are, then I would definitely like Georgia there. But they need to come out and put a hurting on Tennessee if they are a top 2 team in the country, in my opinion.
So the other thing that I am not, I mean, I'm pretty sure Georgia's going to get to Atlanta now, right? I mean, like the colossal meltdown that would have to happen. They'd have to lose to Missouri. They'd have to lose to Tennessee. They'd have to lose both. Well, they would not necessarily have to lose both those games. That's assuming a win over the Gators. But when you look at Alabama's stretch at the end, Matt, compare this to Georgia's. They go Tennessee, LSU, New Mexico State. And here's the part I'm talking about specifically. Georgia closes with Charleston Southern and at Tech. Basically both home games. Basically both against FCS schools, the Cokers of the world. Alabama plays Arkansas at home, and then they go to Auburn the week before the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
Now, who did they piss off to end the season like that? Those are not fun to end with. They used
Yeah.
to end like with State. I'm trying to remember a little bit better.
A little cleaner.
Yeah. Not as this is.
It didn't look like that maybe going into the 2020 season, but that Arkansas game late, I mean, might be able to play a physical game with them. And then Auburn, sometimes they can have some crazy Auburn magic at the end of seasons. I mean, we'll see if Bo Nix has a little bit more magic there at the end, but not two games you would ideally like to play heading into a game against Georgia.
Yeah, and in the recent past, just looking at Alabama's situation, they have played typically a gimme game at home before they play Auburn these last 4 or 5 years. I think it does add up. I mean, I don't know how many times I said to you, these guys have got to get an off week. Talking about Georgia,
Yeah.
and now they've got it, but it really.
Yeah, they're at halftime right now. This is where you
but
got to get right.
It feels worse than that, man.
Yeah.
Is that me?
It was no, I mean Georgia beat up on a lot of teams, but in the process, they got these teams' best efforts. I try to say that. I think Auburn gave it their best, Kentucky gave it their best, and Arkansas tried.
How about
I want to say
is
that was
that
their
the
best.
best Carolina's played this season? Because it might be. I don't know.
They played Kentucky pretty close.
Yeah, they
Looking
did.
back on it,
That's true. And I
and
think
then
Auburn's best game was probably at Penn State, if we're thinking about
for
it.
sure,
Hey,
for sure.
your comments on this was the most watched Georgia Kentucky game in the history of the two, which is not necessarily surprising. Was it surprising to you that and when you look at, and I know I'm more of the TV person than you are, but what does it say to you about Georgia's power? I don't know what the correct term is. What does it say to you that the closest audience that Clemson's played that's not been a Georgia game, the Georgia Clemson game is 4 times more viewership than any other game Clemson has played. It's double the viewership any game for South Carolina. I think it's 3 times the amount for or double the amount for somebody else. I can't remember all these games. The only two teams who have played games that were bigger were Penn State, Auburn, which makes sense because it was in prime time, and then Texas A&M, Arkansas, which was a network game versus Georgia's game on ESPN with Arkansas. Your comments on over 27 million people watching Georgia this season so far.
A little high. I get the Georgia brand. I get they're a top 5 team, top 3 team, top 1 team now in the country. But
Right.
it's not like these games were super incredible with fireworks all over the place. A lot of them we've said have been over by the half. Clemson was close, but that was not a fun game for anyone to watch. If you're
And still the most watched game in college football.
exactly. So people watch Georgia. I think they're a team that a lot of your average college football fan kind of likes to snark at, blah, 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 Georgia this and that. They can't win anything. So Georgia's on people's minds. They are a giant brand, a major program, and they're playing on CBS. They're playing primetime games, and people give it their best. There's a lot of people that really do not like Georgia,
Right.
and they play the villain for South Carolina and Clemson fans, Auburn and Alabama fans. If you're in the South, especially if you live in the state of Georgia and you didn't attend Georgia, if you're not a Georgia fan, you hate Georgia. So there's a lot of hate watching that goes into this, I think, and
For sure.
and it's at the end of the day, it's excellent defense. I'm sure that comes into it too. A lot of people like watching defense out there, but the Kentucky number really surprised me. Just comparing it to baseball going on right now that I would never miss. And October's a big month. There's a lot of sports going on, and for Georgia, Kentucky, even at 3:30 CBS to be that high, I did think was a lot.
Just to put it into perspective, Georgia, Kentucky outdrew the first game of the ALCS with the Boston Red Sox in it. So that's pretty amazing. And that was on network television, okay? Now, it was a Friday night, but still. It outdrew Texas, Oklahoma. It pretty well outdraws everything that's not an NFL football game. And it was what I would call substantially lower than a typical NFL football game, because those get anywhere from 8 to 10 million people that watch. But last night with the NBA, those won't get maybe with the Lakers, but that was a late game. And you just look at everything, and Major League Baseball not outdrawing Georgia, Kentucky. It really says more to me about Georgia and Kentucky than it does about baseball. Baseball's been sliding for a while. That's not new, but it is. an opportunity for Georgia to continue. This next decade could be a very serious opportunity for Georgia as a not just a football program, but as an institution to grow and grow its audience and become a better school. What do you have
Real
going on?
quick,
Yeah.
real quick. How does this help the basketball team, Dean? How does this help the baseball team and everything? Can it,
Well,
and how much impact could it make?
so that's a great question, actually, and there's a couple of answers to it. And I will be brief because we've gone a long time. Number one, it broadens your exposure. Anybody that thinks about Georgia, they think about football first, but everything else can fall underneath the umbrella and grow. Secondly, there's local rights fees, which Georgia has a decent one, a decent contract, but that can always grow. And any more money into the system is good. It's in marketing; it would be top of the funnel. Not all these 8 million or 6 million viewers are going to be, quote Georgia fans, but it exposes the brand to other things. Georgia's problem in basketball currently is that if they have gotten head coaches that are not fits for the school, and we're going to see what happens with the end here at Tom Crean. I say the end because I'm assuming it's the end. It's time to go,
I hope.
and yeah,
Well,
it's go
it's kind of
time.
mean, but
Oh, you're saying it's time for him to go. I'm not ready to make a determination about these things publicly. I just
right.
think it's go time, and they were picked for last in the league, and you know when you've played basketball in the state like I did at a high level with the Atlanta Celtics and beyond, there's no excuse for Georgia basketball to be this bad. There's no excuse for Georgia Tech to be as bad as it is. So it's time, and I think the main problem at Georgia has been they have not gotten a cultural fit for their school. Now, Tom Crean, I think, was the right hire, but
At the time.
at the time. But it's go time now. Or it's going to be too late. But yeah, I mean, there's just no excuse. It's a different cultural thing, but for Clemson to have had success, relatively speaking, Carolina certainly has South Carolina, Tennessee, Auburn, Florida,
Alabama.
Alabama. Georgia's not trying the way that it should at an administrative level, and as a presidential level, and at the Board of Regents level to win at basketball. It would be, listen to me, it would be easier to win with the talent in basketball in the state than it would be with football. Period.
That's a take. That's
It's not a take. It's the truth. Go back and look. Sharif, Matt Harpring, Anthony Edwards. I mean, it's not. How many NBA guys have lived in Atlanta? There's a lack of imagination about what Georgia basketball can be. That's the problem. That's the problem. It's a everybody's asleep at the wheel and no one cares problem. And it's Tom Crean's job to fix it or he won't be around. And now I've seen that we've frozen you again. I see you over here on Skype. You're good. But I'm going to end on that rant. You're fine. We're not re-recording. We'll see you over on the website, dogpost.com.